Follow me to my conspiracy theory board. So we have the lip sync song, Nobody's Supposed to Be Here, performed 3 other times in other franchises. One in Canada vs. the World, another in All Stars 3, and then in Drag Race Germany, which is not relevant to this conversation. We have Kennedy Davenport, who was allegedly going to be sent home by Bendela Creme in All Stars 3 to this very song. Silky Nutmeg Ganache lip-synced to this very song in Canada vs. the World. Leading me to one conclusion. Drag Race Germany is returning with Diane Brill and Victoria Shakespears as the hosts. Like Sasha Bella cracked the code. Or the other likely scenario, which is that they were expecting Kennedy and Silky to lip-sync together, thusly completing the most orchestrated Drag Race story producer story that is ever storied on Drag Race. Hi, hello everyone, my name is Jer, and the competition is really heating up, girls. We're mixing things up today. Not as good of a snap. Remember when they used to have facts on the bottle cap? Oh, it does! Karate originated in India. Well, who would have known? Today we are going to be talking about Drag Race All Stars 11, Episode 10, Tell Me Something Good. Episode 1 of the semifinal bracket packed a lot of content into a very short period of time. The queens are tasked with telling us something good and commanding the stage, while telling an entertaining story as a life lesson to their younger self. Initially, this seems like a vulnerability challenge, like the charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent monologues, or the pink table talk from All Stars 6 as specific examples. But in reality, Drag Race just wants the queens to make Rue laugh. Plain and simple. And since this is framed as a tell a story to your younger self, I kind of interpreted this challenge as a drag queen story hour adjacent. Do something that's family friendly, not as much vulgarity, something that kids could easily understand, and filter that through your unique lens of being a queer person and an entertainer. I like what this challenge wanted to be, but considering its highly subjective nature, I was curious on how it was even scored, if there was any logic at all. I don't believe there was, because it's Drag Race. And on the runway, the queens have to present their best red carpet looks, which is a bit of a flaccid category considering that we're elbow deep into All Stars 11. We should be experiencing the best categories that we possibly could get from them, and this is such season 3, season 4 generic blah runway. I also find it interesting that there is 0 Snatch Game this season, and this marks the very first All Stars in history, if you count the Gaffin as an related challenge to the Snatch Game, to not have one. And this is the first US series since season 1 where there has been no celebrity imitation challenge. Yeah, we had the RuPaul show Lip Sync Extravaganza last week, but that doesn't totally count in my book, since the queens specifically didn't get to choose and they were assigned categories. And since there is no Snatch Game and there is no celebrity impersonation, I just want to ask, do any of you fans want to apologize to Van Gogh for blowing so much smoke in her direction for not doing a Snatch Game? I'm sure there's gotta be one of you out there. This will be the very first US season to not include a Snatch Game, meaning that Snatch Game is not compulsory to win Drag Race anymore. Ooh, good episode title. And I've been feeling for years like Snatch Game is a little dull. It's been needing some type of format readjustment. I don't know what could be done, maybe following the Slation Royale format. This is a great time, in my opinion, to retire this challenge. I think it's had its day in the sun. This episode did sacrifice just a little bit of storyline for the purpose of compacting so much content, which I'm not terribly upset about, and so I'm gonna fold a lot of that storyline into the rankings. The scoreboard that I used for this week is based on their entrance look, their story look, their humor of their story, how interested I was in their story, and their red carpet runway. I mentioned last week that my scores are cumulative. On these scoreboards, I rank everyone in each one of the categories, so they're all different from each other. All those scores get added together, and that's how I get the final product and figure out who goes where. I probably didn't strictly need to include their entrance looks, but I wanted to because my personal feeling is, if you're gonna show it to us on Drag Race, it's got to matter. Otherwise, why am I seeing it? If you're gonna make them get dressed up to go on the main stage to hear about their challenge, that outfit should have something to do with their final score. Otherwise, they could just be out of drag in the workroom and do everybody walks in at the exact same time out of drag. My 7th and 8th position are actually tied for scores this week, and so I ranked them based on how likely I would be to watch them again, which is tough because I don't want to watch either one of these performances again. In my 8th position is Kennedy Davenport. Shut up! Her re-entrance look is solid. I'm wild about the print of that green dress. I love the way that Kennedy does pageant drag so polished and perfectly. Her energy was weird this week though. I don't know what it was, but she almost seemed like she knew she was going home because she looked sad the entire time she was there. In the challenge, Kennedy's look first off was a little wacky in this white dress and that wig. I didn't like the look at all. I thought it was booger boot. Her story was about being a class clown, and I think there's a lot of potential in that. You can be the silly goof in the room. You could be the one that's always trying to make people laugh. But there's a time and a place to lock in and be professional and get your work done. You can achieve all of your goals still being funny while also being present in the work you're doing. And I think that's what the messaging should have been, considering that it was targeted at a kid. That's not what happened, because Kennedy rambled on for a long time. She rabbit trailed in different directions, didn't follow a steady train of thought, and I just don't know if there's a ton of humor to be found from childhood violence from parental figures. It was a different time. I was someone who got the belt and the wooden spoon multiple times, but those just aren't funny scenarios. And then the terrible costume change into a different character was giving me a parallel line to Heidi N Closet's cringy family barbecue one-woman show set where she kept changing characters, and that is a layer of cringe hell for me. I was uncomfortable for most of it, and then when Michelle said at the very end, well, now I'm just depressed, that was so me too. I'm like, damn, now I'm just sad after that. On the runway, Kennedy is looking familiar in salmon. I think it's very pretty, but the prompt is red carpet, meaning that you're kind of supposed to think, okay, I'm gonna get stopped by paparazzi, I'm gonna get stopped by other celebrities saying, who made your look? Who was responsible for this? I wanna take photos of it so that I can see more of it. You want the people to ask who designed that. I don't think anybody would ask that. I don't particularly like the slit in the front. I wish that was on the side. Otherwise, it's fine. I'd give it a soft slay. In my 7th position is Silky Nutmeg Ganache. Looking familiar in baby blue for her re-entrance look, and I do like that Silky has always committed to the blue theme anytime that she's reintroduced herself to the cameras. It's a great way of branding herself. I do wish that this was in that cobalt blue that all of her other looks have been every time she's entered, but shaking it up I guess is fun. Admittedly, her set was probably more interesting than I am giving it credit to. I just can't get it up for organized religion when it comes to Drag Race. I'm sort of like, get that Jesus out of here. I personally cannot appreciate painting any type of organized religion in a positive light. I appreciate them talking about the harm that religion has done to them and how they found light and peace and healing outside of being in those institutions. But anything that praises, I just don't want to see it, don't care. That's a personal gripe. I tried to be as unbiased as possible. Nothing can be done about that. I think it's undeniable that Silky has natural charm, natural charisma. You want to listen to what she's saying because she demands attention from you, the way that she carries herself, the way that she talks. That charm is something you can't bottle and sell. You just have that. And so I like the way that she presented herself, even if I didn't like the material that she had. And my entire mood during the set was basically Akiraia disassociating. On the runway, I hated this look. I wrote at the top of my notes, yuck. I don't like this cut for her at all. She said it was gothic, ooky spooky swan. I don't think it's reading that. I don't think it's reading red carpet. I don't think anyone would pay attention to this if she walks down a red carpet. I think that they would take a quick photo out of courtesy and then wait for the next girl to come down. It's a soft chop, I'm sorry. I don't want to get ahead of myself too much here, but Silky and Akiraia, as of the recording of this, did not speak for a year. All of the drama with Akiraia going online, demeaning Silky's reputation, I thought happened right after the filming of All Stars 11, but no, that happened before All Stars 11 was filmed. They're not on good terms, and suddenly a lot of things are starting to make sense as to the organization of this bracket, and it's crazy hilarious to me that Discord wants to go on Kelly Mantle's show and other shows and run her yapper about how Drag Race is not interested in drama, how they're trying to celebrate queer love and queer stories and blah blah blah. Explain this. This is drama. This is exactly what Discord is saying the Boulets are doing, but it's worse because it's insidious. In my 6th position was Samuel Starr, who was almost high up on my ranking, but I hated with the passion of 1,000 burning suns that runway look.
Flames.
I like Sam's belted re-entrance look. It's quite edgy for her, in my opinion. Edgy is not really something I think about with Sam, so it did receive high marks for me on that end. I just wish that she didn't have to add a cowboy hat to everything. Sam seemed significantly more locked in this episode, and I Credit that to how things shook out at the end of Purple Bracket, with the queens narrowly tying it between her and Jasmine Kennedy. I think she had some fear in that moment of, this could be snatched away from me at any time by these bitches.
Oh, wait a minute, bitches.
She realized the gravity inside the popcorn, and she zeroed in on her goals this time, even more so than she did in Purple Bracket, where she was just having fun. For her story time, I actually super loved the subject matter. As someone who was also an effeminate kid who wasn't very interested in boy stuff, but forced myself to do sport ball for the sake of other people around me so that I appeared masculine in some way, I was intrigued by this storyline that Sam was telling. You can be fierce and you can just be that queer kid and not have to do the stuff that everybody expects you to do. I was interested in that story, so that got a lot of high marks. But where Sam suffered is that it wasn't very funny and it wasn't entertaining, in my opinion. Outside of the physical comedy, which was brilliant, I think Sam's biggest problem is that she talks and doesn't just think and stop and let the room breathe what she's saying. But I do think she achieved her goal of trying to redeem herself from her charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent monologues, even if her set was very bits and canned, and you should just call her canned and bits. But it depends on if she's a porch person or a bike person, really. On the runway, I don't want to be hateful, but this dress is completely uggo. If the dress wasn't bad enough from its atrocious cut and length, I don't believe that this is a solid color choice for her. And it has heels on it? For why? This really drug her score down. The look overall is a chop. In my 5th position is Akiraia Davenport, whose entire storyline was that she does not vibe and mesh at all with Silky Nutmeg Ganache, and it kept reminding us by showing these lingering shots of both of them disassociating during each other's sets. Drama and mess, which I love and is hilarious, but this had the same kind of gay, malicious that bringing Farrah and Valentina together in All Stars 4 had. Farrah was used as a story device for Valentina's progression in the competition to propel her forward, and that's exactly what they did here, and I feel kind of bad for Akiraia getting used as a story device for somebody else. And truly, I believe that Akiraia knew what was going on, because her whole energy, much like Kennedy's, was sad. She had this air about her like, okay, damn, you pushed me through just to have me in the same room with the person I hate? Cool. Cool. Akiraia's re-entrance look is this sexy, chic pinstripe lined in red, a detail that I found uber visually striking. The look is very 1920s mobster tea, and I live. In the challenge, she made some confusing choices for her look. Wearing this potato sack of a sequin number, I think the pre-reveal was a major mistake. She should have just worn that fitted yellow number, because that was a statement piece, and I think it wouldn't have changed her set very much. But I think it would have been better to have not worn that shapeless, ugly garment beforehand. Not to mention the fact that we've already seen Akiraia's full body silhouette multiple times on Drag Race, and a pre-reveal into a body reveal like that is really only effective when we haven't seen someone's figure, legs, hips, waist, the works. It's very Victorian woman showing her ankles for the first time, but she's got her tits out. It's not giving the allure and mystery you think it's giving. Also, I don't believe that we as the audience should ever be thinking, oh thank God, when a reveal comes off and something better is underneath, because those were my exact thoughts. And when she came out, I fully thought, Akiraia, what happened to your wardrobe? I think Akiraia has a magnetic way of speaking. I could listen to her talk for hours just based on her cadence and the way that she says things. So on that end, I was intrigued and I was definitely drawn to her. The way she presented her story was as if she was just chatting with a friend, and I think that's effective communication style in a challenge of this nature. But the story, I personally don't think is a good idea to tell to your younger self about how you got a sketchy pump in some random sketchy place. That would freak out any child. And the moral wasn't even, hey, don't go get pumped. Your body is perfect the way that you are. That, I think, would have been a great endpoint to this. You're gonna wanna change who you are physically to make others be happy, to try and achieve something that you think will fulfill you, but you don't need that. You are perfect exactly as you are. I think that would have been a really good message to a child's self, while maybe cutting out some of the crazy body horror details. I think I smiled a lot at Akiraia's story, but I wasn't like har about it, which I think was the point. And on the runway, Akiraia has created her own rendition of that classic Mugler dragon dress. The very same that we've seen Sasha Bell do in season 7 or Joffrey in Italia 2. I feel like there's been another rendition of this somewhere, and so it's not a totally new concept on Drag Race. And so I'm a bit, okay, I've seen it about this look, but it is damn impressive that she made it herself, because I don't believe that Sasha or Joffrey made their own looks. And these are difficult materials to work with, so credit where credit is due. I think she looks gorgeous, but I hate the purple hair choice. I could have gone without that. Overall, it's a soft slay because it's gorgeous, it's intricately constructed, she made it herself. It's a cool rendition while also being in her style. In my 4th position is Dawn, who got most of her high marks from the presentation of her looks and the visual package rather than what she actually did. All tea. Dawn did absolutely eat up her bracket, and that was a big part of her storyline, is that she wanted to come and eat the second part. But what I think we saw here is kind of the problem with Dawn on All Stars, is that when she's stacked up against the ultra hard hitters, she kind of falls flat and buckles a bit. It was funny to hear her grumbling about the social element of the second round because you already did this, girl! The entirety of the bracket formats are social game. The queens are quite literally helping each other get to the finale. Of course they're gonna do something social at the end because last year they did the Raid Queen in the finale. Anyways, I loved her re-entrance look. It's very Breakfast at Tiffany's in the year 3000 on Mars. For her story, I gotta be honest, I didn't care too much about this first time getting stupid high. The prompt is, tell a good, entertaining story to your younger self. You want your younger self to know that you had a recreational crash out in front of strangers? Girl, the story was manic, the story was cringe. I think the way that Dawn presented it was unfocused and sort of like she was making it up on the fly. Like when you're lying about something and you have to keep making the lie bigger. So you're like, oh my God, and then they threw me off the bridge and then there were sharks in the water and then I swam but there was lava and when I dove into the water there were piranhas, so then I flew up to the moon and that's how I escaped from the great heist of when I stole the Declaration of Independence. I did like her nails though, those were very fun. And the tan multi-print dress is orgasmic. I loved that look. That's where she scored highest for me. And on the runway, Dawn is taking inspiration from herself, doing an homage to her original Emmy's red carpet look. I love the shape of the hair. The cut of this dress is marvelous. I think she looks great in seafoam. And I think the pops of teal are sexy. No shade, I prefer when the queens reference themselves out of necessity, like for a redemption look, because I want them to have a bit of stank on them before they reference something they've already done. Like Kennedy could easily reference anything she's already worn on Drag Race and do an homage to that because she's got that entertainment stank on her. She's been doing this for a long time. I would rather have seen something new. Does that make sense? It's a cute soft slay. In my 3rd position is Crystal Method, the winner of the challenge. It seems to me like Crystal was given the win out of production fear that the other queens were gonna put her in the bottom, which doesn't make any sense to me. Feelings are not fact. That is just my perception, but I've also been reviewing this franchise long enough to smell a stunt when I see one. Her entrance look is this really cool 80s inspired clown, which I found very exciting. Hello, these are all things I enjoy, but the orange hair was throwing me off a little bit and those pops of orange on the costume were throwing me off. All the colors are great together, but then that orange is kind of like throwing cilantro into baked potato soup. Everything was right, but then this ingredient just stands out peculiarly. Also, the polka dots to me looked a bit dirty. Maybe it was just the color of the background. I wish that that was a more vibrant color and less dull. Otherwise, it's a very fun look. I think it's great. Crystal closed out the storytime night looking like the gayest pirate ever. And I thought the copyright-free version of He's a Pirate from Pirates of the Caribbean was hilarious as the background audio. To me, Crystal was most on mark for telling a story to your childhood self. Her cadence and presentation were very drag queen story hour. And I liked that the style of the story was even kid-friendly, using allegories of what she was wearing, of being trapped out at sea, of words like rations, etc., where it was all themed to her presentation. She reframed a story that could have been a great trauma for any kid and turned that into something humorous and triumphant, about advocating for yourself, about not just watching things passively happen, about speaking up when it is time to get off the bus, to do a thing that you know you're supposed to do. But you don't really want to talk back to authority figures, but sometimes you've got to. Because even if you're gonna figure things out, even when things don't go right, silence is not going to help you in any way. So I liked the drive of that story, and I will admit, Crystal has charm and charisma. That's undeniable, much like Silky. She's a great storyteller, and I thought that what she had to say was interesting, but I didn't find it funny. So her win wasn't totally satisfying to me for that reason. On the runway, Crystal had one of my favorite looks, which significantly helped her score. The texture of this menswear clown look is everything to me. I would wear the hell out of that. The colors are divine. The pops of the lime green, oh, so hot. I love the way that the cuffs and the main pieces are inverted versions of each other. It is luxe. That fascinator with the flag stripes and then that feather coming off of it is so cool and avant-garde. This look is a cool intersection of fashion and fun. The goal of any red carpet is to get stopped, is to have people say, who made that? And I think everybody would be asking, who made your outfit? Where can we get one to? Where can we get a ready-to-wear version of this? Because that is cool. It's a super slay of a look. In my second position is Jasmine Kennedy. And no, for all of the critical thinking illiterate, this is not a Jasmine glaze. Jasmine's re-entrance look is soft and stunning. It's a bit understated, but not in a bad way in my opinion. I lived for her directly laughing at Michelle's baldness, because me too. For the challenge, Jasmine is wearing maybe the least exciting look of everybody, which does lose her some points, and her actual speech pattern was maybe a bit over-rehearsed sounding. However, I majorly commend Jasmine for going into a place of gender dysphoria to discuss life as a gender that she no longer presents as, to speak on topics of being a boy, presenting as boy. I found her story to be raw, authentic, heartfelt, warm, and I think she navigated this conversation beautifully and adeptly. Had this challenge been what it initially seemed like, a vulnerability, heart and soul challenge, Jasmine could have won this. Her first coming out story was very sweet. I liked the way that she presented her mom and the way that she talked about that conversation. It was maybe too sweet for what Drag Race wants, which is a little low vibrational, pee-pee poo-poo brain, make us laugh, be dumb. But I still enjoyed this as a story, and I think she hit every mark of the brief. And on the runway, Jasmine is wearing this simple but very pretty gown. It's almost cut like a hanbok, but there's something kind of gown of the future, Star Wars about the neckline, and I respond positively to that. I love the colors, it's a soft slay. And then in my number one position is Drag Race's very first openly gay competitor, Joey J. Here's what I don't understand. Week after week, this has been connecting with RuPaul on a psychic level. We can see Ru breaking down her typical hosting persona, saying "F you man" to Joey, while laughing during walkthroughs because Joey made her break so hard. We see Ru gasping for air because she's laughing so hard at Joey's roasts, at her comedy on the main stage, at her raw charisma and vulnerability. And then here, we see Ru sounding like she was dying because she was laughing so hard. But then Joey's just safe. I don't get it. Connecting with Ru is always priority one on Drag Race, but it just doesn't matter here. It proves that you could do everything right, have great runways, do wonderful in the challenge, be the very first openly gay contestant, and it doesn't mean anything. Joey was the winner of the random MBQ lottery, and let's be so real here, as much as I love Selena as titties, and as much as I believe that she should have gotten another opportunity because she was just as robbed as Joey, I don't see her doing well in this kind of challenge in the eyes of RuPaul. I don't think she would have gotten her flowers from RuPaul. And Morgan, as much as I love her, I don't think would do well in this kind of challenge, so I think Joey was the best fit. For her re-entrance, she scored number one for me, coming in this beautiful lattice-affected, red-stoned black pleather that made me wet. She looked so hot. She looks like she's going to a feather funeral. I'm a sucker for the muff. She looks like a wicker basket that 1,000 white women have in their homes, and I am obsessed. Eat this up, bitches.
Oh, wait a minute.
In the challenge, I found Joey hysterical, and she was so on the nose for modern storytelling because a lot of modern kids, much like RuPaul, have that iPad kid brain and they need constant visual and sound stimuli to keep them interested in something that's being talked about for more than 5 seconds. And so I thought it was incredibly effective as a kid-friendly story piece. She locked me in with the very first joke. You're gonna grow up poor, but as you grow up, you will get older. That was very funny. And then the joke about her dad being a magician, I thought that helped make sense of an early trauma that a kid might experience of not understanding why their parents are no longer around. Yes, well, he was an illusionist, that was his job. But he never reappeared. He wasn't a very good illusionist. On a critique level, Joey did rely on her cards a little heavily, but I almost kind of understood that as being part of the bit. Like, okay, we're reading, okay, it's time for the sound effect.
You're a liar, and this is why Derek don't like you.
Good, next line. Like, to me, the cards were a part of the bit. Joey's timing overall was incredible. I liked the moral that she had about not needing a family because she had a fairy godmother the whole time. I think a lot of queer kids can understand that maybe your born family is not who your chosen family is, and you don't need to have blood relatives in your life because there's always gonna be someone who's gonna be looking after you. I liked that. I thought it was sweet. And I think it was funny. She ticked every single box. And on the runway, Joey does look a bit understated, I won't lie. I like the applique, but overall, I'm not a huge fan of this look. That did bring her scores down. I don't think anybody's gonna stop and ask, who made that? Because I don't imagine anyone would actually care. She had such a good week, and then this runway look was such a, oh, rather than a, oh, I don't know, it's a soft chomp. It's like finding out that a man has a really nice expensive car, but it's a rental. It's just not as impressive. Shout out to this guest judge, Evan Mulrooney. Men out there with fuzzy tits, this is how you should be presenting. Let us see. Sorry to be reductive and gross. He was a brilliant, beautiful judge. I loved how much he appreciated the drag, and his hairy chest looked nice. Okay? Rue calls Crystal as the winner. I think Crystal was top 3 for sure. But again, Joey had ruined stitches, and that usually counts for something. But not this season, and I don't understand why. And then the rest of the queens have to utilize MBQ to determine the bottom 2. So it's playing off all those social dynamics that I really feel like last season's second round was critically lacking. If you're gonna push social game for 9 episodes, you have to keep doing it for your last several, otherwise what did you do all that for? This, in my opinion, is how Rated Queen should work in All Stars. I think it takes all the best parts of the voting from All Stars 5 to 8 and folds that into what I think is effective work on Drag Race. The results are in, and the bottom 2 are Akiraia Davenport and Kennedy Davenport, and they have to lip sync to a song that's been performed 3 times already. Nobody's supposed to be here. And I do believe that Sam voting Kennedy so low is what tipped the balance, because Kennedy was ranked number 1 by Jasmine, I believe. But I get what Sam was saying. That is probably her only opportunity to get Kennedy out of there. So I get it. And again, I do think based on that opening that I presented that this was messy boots. This was a huge story opportunity. It would be like making Alyssa and Tatiana lip sync to It's Raining Men, the RuPaul version, knowing that they were both going to eliminate Jeremy in All Stars 2. It's just such a hard comparison because there's nothing like this that's ever happened on Drag Race, especially since Kennedy was going to be eliminated to this very song. Akiraia was giving it to me when she did that very first turnaround. That's when I was focused on her, that I barely noticed anything else that Kennedy did. I did like the fall. I thought that was funny from Kennedy, but Akiraia ate Kennedy up. She brought me to church with all of her movements, and I could not stop focusing on her. I knew that she had it in her. I just didn't think that she was going to give it her all to remain in a competition with a bitch that she hates, and then to potentially take away an opportunity from a mentor and friend that she looks up to like Kennedy. A lot of times we'll see when queens end up in the bottom 2 with people that they're friends with, they don't always give it their all because they don't necessarily want to snatch away their opportunity. Especially with Akiraia having drama with Silky. I didn't think she'd want to remain in a hostile work environment, but she turned it, she burned it. Oh, speaking of which, shout out to Silky for looking like Tina Burner in her entrance when she came in to get ready for work day. Screamed. And Kennedy, I fully thought was gonna go to the top 4 at the very least, because she's always made it to top 4 in all of her appearances on this show. I was gooped. It was not on my vision board to see her go home this early. Next week, the Rated Queen results are gonna get dropped. Drama for sure. And the Maxi is a talent show. It looks like there's gonna be a lot of lip sync performances. It doesn't look like there's gonna be a lot of crazy talent, which is kind of disappointing. This is why I think talent shows should only exist in the international seasons, because those girlies give it. But anyways, what'd y'all think about this episode? Who won it for you? Who should have been the bottom 2? And who should have gone home? Let me know in those comments below. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see y'all on the flip.